Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast, JD Edwards, Advanced AOS Configuration. My name is Amanda Greiner, Marketing Coordinator with GSI, and I'm also very pleased to welcome our main presenter, David Fernandez, Security Practice Consultant with GSI. Now before we get started, I wanted to give you a chance to review our Safe Harbor Statement. And now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, I'll take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items as well as provide a brief company overview. Then I'll turn it over to David to get into our main presentation, which will last about 40 minutes. Next, I'll take a moment to go over some upcoming educational events. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with a 10-minute Q&A session. If you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to minimize your GoToWebinar console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. And now I would like to give you a brief overview of GSI. GSI is a full-service JD Edwards consulting organization. We're an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S. GSI specializes in project consulting, managed services, and cloud and hosting services, with all of our services backed with a 100% guarantee. GSI also provides a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for Oracle NetSuite, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications. In addition, we are a product development company that has many popular products, including Genius, which is our advanced monitoring and performance analytics solution for JD Edwards or any business critical system on any platform. Genesis is our load and stress testing application for system design, validation, or expansion for JD Edwards or any web-based business system. G Shield is our comprehensive security solution for JD Edwards, including password reset and two-factor authentication. Rapid Reconciler, which allows you to effectively manage your inventory, in transit, and R&V reconciliation processes for any version of E1 or World. And Rapid Approval is a Salesforce App Exchange solution that streamlines the approval request process. All right, now I'd like to turn things over to David for our main presentation.
All those who are, good morning, afternoon, and evening to all those who joined us. Thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning. And we have, and I'm sorry, Amanda, is the presentation okay? Okay, you see my screen okay?
Yes.
I'm sorry, there it goes. Okay, this morning we're going to be talking about, oops, sorry, wrong one. Okay, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry, I meant the presentation. Is it up?
I'm not seeing it.
Okay, apologize to all those. Okay. Let me grab the. And okay, I'm sorry, this, are we seeing it okay now?
I can't see it. You might want to switch the display settings. Looks like we're seeing the preview. If you just hit the display settings to see the tab, and I think you could switch the screens.
And
you see in the very top of the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's show taskbar, display settings.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. And then you just swap view. There we go.
Okay, is that?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. Okay, sorry, rough start there, team, but here we get going. This morning we're going to talk a bit about ALLOut Security. And as Amanda said, my name is David Fernandez. I'm with the GSI security team, working with Brian Connor. And we're going to go over a real brief description of ALLOut. I imagine most of you are using ALLOut. If not, I hope this gives you enough information that you may be interested in exploring ALLOut Security. And ALLOut Security, this is right out of their manual. It's a tool set for and a product that will help you get the most out of your JD Oracle software investment. It's very powerful. ALLOut uses native JDE tables. Some other products, they will use their own custom tables, so it writes to those. And it can be kind of difficult if you're trying to use native JDE tools, like the Security Workbench and so forth, to try to mix those two together. It doesn't work well. ALLOut allows you the ability to work both sides of it, which is a pretty neat function of ALLOut. There's a couple of things within, for those of us who are system administrators, this be questions that we will see from time to time. For example, if I manage a SOX audit system, how do I determine if the new user account will create an SOD conflict when copied from an existing? If you have hundreds or thousands of people, you don't know if they have SOX conflicts, and this could be very critical when you're creating new accounts day to day. So this could be a pretty interesting, valid question. Another question you could receive is, if I receive a request to add additional roles to a user, how can I test to determine if that new combination will create a conflict? And we see this often where there's mergers, separations, divestitures, or just reorganizations within an organization where the jobs functions are combined. This is a very common scenario as well. And again, this goes back to the requirement of combining jobs of two different positions. And lastly, another kind of question you would see is the auditing team has reported that there's issues with your reports. And if you don't resolve your SOD conflicts, you can have failures in your review. And that would, for a publicly traded company, that could be significant financial implications to that. So we can say, how do I determine what roles are causing these problems or these findings, as they would say? So that would be kind of a big thing to start. These are, again, common questions faced by administrators every day. For example, in that screenshot there, if you're using this type of spreadsheet, say, hey, this is a conflict and I have this list of chart of accounts maintenance programs. If any of those match up to anything in GL journal entries, I can have a conflict of interest, and auditors would have issues with that kind of mix. So within ALLOut, you would create a list and say, these are my programs, this is the list, and these are all the programs that fall into that section of work, that list of the GL or chart of accounts and maintenance. That's a unique protected type of programs, a group of programs. We would go into ALLOut and then say, I want to report on top there, we see segregation of duties. This is the screen that you would work with. As you see, it's very JDE. And I select segregation of duties. I want to see what that rule set's going to be. The next arrow to the right there is, what does the 950 say? What kind of security do they have? Do they have an add, change, delete, or what type? In this case, we're doing A because I want to be able to see who has add, change, delete capabilities. That's the most intrusive or the most powerful access you can have to programs. And then for the user, I want to say, I want to pick this one user here, this D. Fernandez guy. And if you wanted to do a range of users, you could pick a range of users as well. And then to the right, for example, I want to pick which rule set. In this case, I want that 9A to 9B, which is my chart of accounts, my GL. And underneath that, we'd format our report with, do you want it a matrix kind of format, a list, or you want a detail? And you can also put it into an Excel format, which is handy. That way you could do anything once you have it in the spreadsheet. You could do anything and query that data much more effectively. For auditors, you'd run it as PDF and in Excel, so you have a hard copy of what the original report was. That way there's no disagreement of how that data was produced. Our format on the bottom would be the header. I want it listed by users across the top of my header, but you could change it, as you can see, by user codes, the rules or programs across top. And on the right would be the detail, which is your horizontal, your vertical. So again, pretty powerful and pretty simple to work this part of the program out. When the report runs, and I apologize, I don't know how this shows up on your screen, if it's too small for some, how far you are from your screen. But this is the cover sheet of the output of your report. And it tells us right on top, this is an SOD report, segregation of duties. And it tells us, okay, I am reading, copy, add, change, delete. Again, so this is stuff that auditors will see, so they can appreciate, okay, this is what the focus of my report's going to be. And we have confirmation on the bottom of what the user that's being queried, and also the rule set. So for auditors, this is very valuable because it's reproducible and consistent. So once they see the report, you can verify that this is our data that they see consistently every time. You can reproduce it, and there's comfort in the efficacy of the report that it's going to be accurate every time, because all this would be, right on top so you could see it. This would be the output of this report, for example. And it shows on the left-hand side, it shows what rule set was affected, which program has conflict, and then the name of the program. And to the right of it, it shows what authority, in this case, is D, which means the delete. So you have all access to this program. This is what causes the breach in this report. So with this information, you can always go back and find this programs with roles they belong to, and you can start stripping them out if you needed to clean these things up. So that in itself is pretty powerful, and it's right there. It's very, very simple, easy to run. You could do it across your entire enterprise. If so, you needed to, review everybody, which you might have it at your annual or semi-annual reviews. Now we can quickly see that what SOD conflicts we'd have, by user, by group, or whatever. You have a report that produces that output for you. So you can use that as a tracking mechanism. You can also monitor the version level if you have safe versions of the program, for example. And I'll back up on that real quick. On the initial configuration of the list of all the offending programs, or the ones you want to control, if you have a version that's inquiry or some sort of version that's safe, that doesn't allow you to do any manipulation of data, you would exclude it from that list of the programs, and it won't report on it because it'll give you a false positive. So that's one of the nice things about when you build your configurations. You don't have it in there, and it'll be safe. So you don't get those annoying false positive messages that you have of vulnerability. Now, if we go back to the questions at the beginning, how do we determine some of these things? And as you saw, we just ran one report, but that report, just how we changed how it's submitted, we can answer a lot of these questions pretty quickly. For example, if we determine if a new user will create a conflict, our answer would be, we run that SOD report, the segregation of duty report, against the existing user, and we confirm if that base account to copy from that's our model to create the new account does not contain any conflicts. If we do that, we have a very concrete piece of information that no, we're not going to have a conflict. We'll create a new account based on that one. So we generate a report, we can run and attach it to your backup documentation to prove that there is, at this point in time, there is no conflict. So, going in, we didn't introduce anything new into our system. So that's very good as well. The next one would be if we have the request to add additional roles to a user, how can we test and determine if the new combination will create any SOD conflicts, and without actually granting the access to the user. So in this case, what we do is we can create a test account with those additional roles, and we prefer to do this in a, your PY, AC, any of the prototype environments, so you're not touching production, because we don't want a live account in production that can do harm without having it signed off and verified that it's acceptable. But we create it with some, funny name, test user 1138, that it's known that, okay, that's a test account. You can wipe it out at the end of the report. We create our test account, then we run the SOD report and we confirm what the outcome is. And if you get no new violations, there's no new problems associated with it, we know that it's safe to add this role to that user, to the group of roles to that user. And then we don't introduce any new problems. And then we go back, we can get rid of our test user. In some organizations, if you introduce a new SOD conflict, a new violation of any of the protocols, you must get it approved by somebody in finance or something, or the audit team that says, okay, it's acceptable for this person if they have more than one job responsibility. But they would sign off and approve. You carry this report and say, here, this is what they're going to have. Now, that person approving has a great deal of information that, okay, they have it documented of what exactly will be the outcome of adding that role. So again, they have all the information they need to make their decision if it's acceptable or not acceptable to permit that for the users. So this is another good way. And again, it's very simple. This is based on that one UBE that we ran up front there. Another question would be, if there's a requirement to combine the two functions, the jobs of two users, into one position. Again, this goes back to our consolidation, divestitures, mergers, or whatever, or back up the other one for vacations, these types of things. We go back to our standard SOD reporting guy. Then we update. First, we'll go back to the new user creation, and then we copy and append to existing user. And that's, basic in ALLOut is you do copy user, and then the option would be append to existing user. So we're going to grab all the current authorities and add the new authorities that we want to merge. And for those of you who are running ALLOut, or you're familiar with it, you're saying, David, you forgot to mention the fixed merge. This is where you run your fixed merge to combine the two roles. And then ALLOut would do that yes, no. If there's a yes, the tiebreaker, it grants authority. So we know that what we'll get is at the end, it will figure it out what's going to authorities you have, and it grants those as appropriate. Once we've done that with the user creation, and again, we do this in the lower environment as we did the test user one, and then we run our SOD report across it and see what it created. And again, this gives us the ability to say, okay, we're going to create a new problem or conflicts or some sort of issues of authority, and we can cut it off or get it approved, or say nothing new introduced. You're approved to move ahead in the creation of the account. So then this would be pretty easy to do. The other question you could have here is the auditing team has reported that we have failures in our SOD. And these are the shocking ones, your semi-annual or your end of year. And they could be, and they are quite strenuous, stressful for the auditing team, because you have problems, and if they have to report these things as findings, that's negative against the organization. You never want to run into that. But in this case, we go back to the SOD report that right off the top that we did here, and we run it across, instead of just one user, we run it across everybody, or by the specific conflicts that are being mentioned, that why do they have, the chart of accounts and GL maintenance on the same accounts? That's a violation, you can't have that. So you run the report, and it'll give you which users have access to it, and what programs specifically they have access to. Then the job of the security person, or in some organizations, the CNC team would do some of that security work as well. They're able to go back and say, okay, it's these roles, remove those roles, and that would help clean up the report. And then you can rerun your report and show your clean bill of health that everything's been remediated, and you can submit that to the audit, and then everybody's will pass with clean, no problems. Bearing in mind, of course, that the audit team says, well, the business says we need to have that because they have a small shop and they have to do those. Then, okay, that's between the audit team and the internal and external auditors. They have to get detective or monitoring controls to make sure that there's nothing inappropriate done, but that would be kind of outside of what, the scope of what we can do here. We don't report on it and control that from that perspective. But, this is very effective in remediating and getting rid of all that unnecessary exposures that you might have. And these are some opportunities as well. If we go outside of the box a little bit here, is if you have the SOX compliance reporting, there's a whole gaggle of those that we can get involved in. The annual user review reporting, those could be significant as well. Master data management reporting, we don't tend to think about that, but I'll go into some detail about that. And critical access program, what does that mean? We'll talk about that a little bit as well. In addition to reporting on SOD conflicts, because we have programmatic access, you can also run reports against companies and MCUs, for example. If you have warehouse A has company 1, warehouse B has company 2, but they can't commingle, we can run reports to find out who has access to different companies using row security, and then we report on that so you know who's got which access to which. And it's not to say that this never happened. We tend to be kind of good about that, but if somebody has a new company or business unit and the business did and they didn't tell anybody in security, row security may or may not have been updated. So that's something we could catch there and say, hey, where did this come from? So this would give you the ability to, find those things out. That's more of your detective control, right? You find after the fact to say, hey, this changed, then you're able to fix it. So this is very effective to run with some frequency. Depending on how dynamic your business is, you may have changes frequent, or you may, be very static in one company for everything. That happens as well. But we're able to control or report on that and have some visibility into any changes there. This is one of those, the annual user report. This is rather strenuous for large organizations because they have to, once a year, depending on your auditing team, you run a report across all users on the system. You break that report down by manager and distribute those lists to the managers of all the people that work for them. And then you have to do that usually by cat code. And then those managers would sign off that the access so each of those people have or users have is appropriate, because sometimes they move from one job to another and it's like, oh, that's not appropriate anymore. Then they have to go back and say, change this to remove that access. Using ALLOut within that other screen that we just did, the SOD report, we could do the user reporting, which is the 4th radio button on there. And it gives us this report. We can capture everybody and you break it down by cat codes, and then the cat codes assigned to managers, like approval routing, for example. And you can separate all the business units by management. So your distribution is very simple, goes to the specific manager that has those specific people, which is also good because if you have somebody move from one department to another department, they also catch it. Because the report says, hey, they don't work for me anymore. It goes back up to audit, and at that point we can find out where they moved and change that and make it appropriate. So this is a very, very powerful tool for that, and it takes a very tedious process and makes it much easier to manage and to control. So that's a very positive thing to use your reporting tool for. Then we come to master data management. Some organizations control or protect master data, and these would be things like your address book, your bank account, banking information, customer or vendor master information. All these things are very sensitive because you don't want people in warehouse updating address book, for example, something like that. So you could create the same as we did with the SOX list. You create one for master data, and then you run a report and say, who has access to update address book? Who has access to update my banking information or bank accounts? And then that would be a very small list, but then you'd have ideas of, okay, these are all this access appropriate. And this would be kind of outside of SOX, but this is a very important within your organization, so nobody messes up your data. And so as well, we could extend this into the same rules as SOD. We can report on it, and it's controlled that way. So it's very powerful in that regard. We can just break this up, make a sub-list, and you can run reports against that data. It's all in the Security Workbench. ALLOut will bring it in and allow you to report on that. So again, that's another thing you could use ALLOut for you to control this way. Then we have the critical access programs. In addition to the things like opening, closing, financial periods, these are that are very few people in the organization do. That would be one that it's highlighted, it's controlled. This is a very small population that can touch that. But also you want to be able to see who has access to OMW, security or system admin type programs. If you have, for example, somebody has access to OMW, or they could do a prompt for version on something, they can create and change versions and affect production negatively, with OMW. How can they get in there? People can get kind of creative with this stuff. So you want to be able to capture that and have, for example, in some businesses, a developer is not allowed access into production because they can create code in production. So this is one of those good areas where you can say who has access to run the OMW, and then they can make sure that they don't have production access in addition to, and also make sure that they're appropriate to have OMW access. And any type of security programs, the 950, the 98 WSEC, anything where you can change user accounts or even passwords at the administrator level, that's not for general consumption. So this is one of those reports that you can create a list of, these are programs I want to monitor to see who has access to them. The CNC team, my database team, whomever, we can create that as a very small group, and you can control and report on it at the drop of a hat. You need it, you go right into the same screen. You select your second radio button, and it's access programs, and right there you can pull it up in the list of what you want to report on. And any questions on that? I've kind of breezed through it because I know there's, for hopefully for some you're very familiar with all this, but this is some ideas or options of different things you could do with additional reporting functions of the audit and user reporting tool from ALLOut. And let's see, do I send this back to you, Amanda?
Yeah, I'll take it back over. Okay, so our webcast today was a part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on JD Edwards. And our upcoming webcasts are listed on the screen. And to view our most up-to-date schedule, you can go to getgsi.com/JD-Edwards-webcast. GSI provides extensive free educational resources for the JD Edwards community, including our weekly educational webcasts, our monthly newsletter called the GSI Insider, our online resource center where you can access our on-demand webcasts, white papers, etc., and our on-site and virtual workshops. And if you would like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts, our monthly newsletter, or to create an account to access the resource center, you can go to getgsi.com, go to resources and events on the main menu. You can select JD Edwards and then select the appropriate link on the right. And it looks like so far I don't see any questions that have been submitted. However, if you do come up with any questions, feel free to reach out to either David or myself. And we will be sure to get information, or we'll be sure to answer those questions for you. Excuse me. So as a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. You'll be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast, as well as a copy of the presentation. And after today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone that attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we'll notify the winner. If you have any follow-up questions, like I said earlier, you can just contact David or myself, and we will get back to you. Thanks again for attending our presentation, and we hope you have a great day.